Hey Dan,
Hi.
what do we got on today?
Jacob wrote an article on why a 6.6 kilowatt solar system is sold with a 5 kilowatt inverter and why it's so common in, I guess, proposals to people.
Yep.
Not so much recently, it's still around.
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
Historically, it's been probably the most common thing people have seen in advertising, marketing,
Of course.
in the industry. So would love to get your take on it. You obviously did your apprenticeship at Endeavour Energy. You understand how all it works behind the scenes.
Yes.
And obviously you've built this business here at Penrith Solar. So
Well, yeah, it's a good question, and unfortunately, the solar industry is plagued with 6.6 kilowatt system marketing, right? And like, people will ring up and they'll say, "I want a 6.6 kilowatt quote." I'm like, "Ugh, yuck! No, you don't. That suits no one." Like, you've just seen Alan Border on TV spruiking it for $4,500 or something dumb like that, right? I remember firstly, Dan, the first time I ever sold a 6.6 kilowatt system, because I was disgusted, right, that it only had a 5 kilowatt inverter. Pre-2015, if you did a 5 kilowatt inverter, it had 5 kilowatts of panels. No ifs or buts about it. And then the new 2015 current STC scheme was introduced, and they introduced a rule that you're allowed to oversize the PV by 33%. So you times the inverter capacity by 1.33, gives you this magic number that you're allowed to put panels to inverter to oversize it, which ultimately does make it run more efficiently. So we started seeing 5 kilowatt inverters times 1.33 does give you a perfect 6.6. Now, that 6.6 kilowatt scenario actually occurs with every size of inverter, right? So 10 kilowatt, for example, 13.2 is the max. 30 kilowatts, you can go up to 39.9 off the top of my head. So, but the reason that you see 6.6 plagued so frequently is because you can actually put it on basically everyone's house with very little red tape in terms of DNSP requirements. So that being Ausgrid, Essential Energy, and Endeavour Energy, which is our DNSP. So the reason there's little red tape is because you can literally slap a 5 kilowatt inverter on anyone's house. You're supposed to do voltage rise calculations. It's supposed to be balanced. But to be honest, these monkeys don't do any of that stuff. They just know that they can get a permission to connect, which is approval to put it on, and they just sell it. And there's also no export limitation in most cases with a 5 kilowatt inverter and 6.6. Now, Dan, I know of companies, and it's almost comical what they do. If you want solar from a company, they'll say, yeah, you can have a 6.6 or a 13.2. Or if you really want to go all out, you can have the whatever the next one is, right? Like the 19 or whatever. And what they're doing is they're actually just selling you two 6.6 kilowatt packages. Their salespeople are just like order takers. You want 1, 2, or 3 of these things, maybe 4. They don't use like a 10 kilowatt inverter or anything. The install subbies will literally rock up and install 2 6.6 kilowatt systems on your house, which is just the wrong thing to do. It's a terrible solution. It's just so disjointed is how I'd describe it, you know.
it's not optimized, really.
It's not optimized. And a 6.6 kilowatt system, very rarely is that the optimum size for anyone. I mean, the average system that we do at Penrith Solar right now is almost 12 kilowatts. So we in 2017, like 6.6 was our average, and then it went to 7, then 8.2, and then 9, and then 10, and it's just kept growing. As homes become electrified, the demand increases. So therefore, a larger system is needed. So that's why we are now up to, you know, nearly 12. And I think in the next 5 years, you'll probably see that go to 15, Dan. And when we start battery storage, everyone says like when battery storage comes, I'm here to tell you it's here right now. You know, April 2024, we had a 60% battery attachment rate at Penrith Solar Centre, which is so high, one of the highest in the industry, which means if 100 customers bought solar off us, 60 of them bought solar and battery, which is a crazy number, right? So as that number becomes 100, and it will become 100, and as we increasingly have more and more electric vehicles, the average system will just keep increasing. What do you think a 6.6 kilowatt system is going to do with someone with an electric vehicle?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
It's going to really be a disappointing experience.
It leaves nothing for the car.
Yeah.
nothing at all.
That's right.
You'll still have a huge bill.
A huge bill, but they're often promised that they'll have nothing, right? Like, you know, get a 6.6, you'll produce 24 kilowatt hours a day, shit it in, like, great. Well, not really. It doesn't work like that. And they're always string inverters, right? So let's unpack a little further, Dan, as to why this 6.6 option is so popular with people who actually know nothing about solar but sell it anyway, right? The 5 kilowatt string inverter is the most produced inverter, probably times 3, I reckon. I think 8s and 10s.
Even today?
Yeah, I mean 10s are beginning, 8s and 10s are beginning up there, but 5s would still definitely be the most. So the cost to produce that inverter is significantly less, naturally through scale, right? So I'm not saying that a 6.6 kilowatt system is necessarily going to be bad value, but is it going to be the right fit? Absolutely not. Very rarely is it going to be the right fit. The other reason why people bang them in is, like we spoke about, the lack of red tape to get them approved from DNSPs around the country. It's everyone's reference point. You know, people really work hard to try and get a 6.6 in. Now, for companies like us, who don't use subcontractors, we are very, very expensive for a 6.6 kilowatt system. You got to think, we have full-time electricians on our books. So for you as a client, Dan, you're going to pay a day rate to us, whether you buy 6.6 kilowatts or you buy 18 kilowatts, which is roughly what we're capable of doing in a day. So you can imagine as you get to the 15, 16, 17, 18 kilowatt mark, the value for money through us is second to none. No one can possibly beat it. We are the most efficient at what we do. However, the opposite is true for a 6.6, and we never push our guys to do 2 in one day. We are quality over quantity sort of company. So for a 6.6, you're going to pay that same day charge as someone who's actually just bought a 15. Now, these companies that are selling these, or flogging off is a better word, these 6.6 kilowatt systems, they are not electricians themselves, which means they do not employ electricians. They're using install subbies, and they're getting the installs as cheap as they possibly can, paying $1 per panel. And as panels increase in wattage, so from 400 to 440, 450 and so on and so forth, the amount of panels that it actually takes to do a 6.6 is getting less and less, right? I think it's like 14 or 13 panels at the moment, you know? So those subbies are only actually doing a 13 panel install, therefore getting paid far less. They're getting really screwed down by the company who's selling them, right? Therefore driving them to do 2 or 3 in a day, sacrificing all quality and just banging these things in. So a 6.6 generic system with tier 1 panels and an unnamed string inverter is probably the worst thing you can actually do for your home, and you are going to be in a world of hurt, especially when you need to rely on some kind of warranty in the future, because these systems are done at such low margins, like 2 to 3% bottom line margins. There's no money allocated for warranty. There's no money allocated to come back and fix anything. And to be honest, they don't have the skill set to do it anyway. So it's just done so cheaply that the person who ends up paying more is the person who actually bought the cheap crap in the beginning. There's a common phrase, if you buy cheap, buy twice. And that is exactly how the 6.6 kilowatt with 5 kilowatt inverter solar system always ends up. You know, always.
And the difficult thing is, if this is their first solar experience, let's say they bought the 6.6, then they've just taken up the prime real estate on the roof. So if they come to us for a system add-on, and we educate them about like getting a battery maybe and a system add-on, they might have.
They've slapped it in the middle of the roof. You're right. You're 100% right. It's a big problem.
It's really difficult to find a great value add-on option or design for people that have, you know, 3-4 year old system that's just taking up that prime real estate, and it might it's difficult conversations, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it then, like, when people come to us in the future and want to bolt on a battery and realise their 6.6 kilowatt system's not actually producing enough to charge a battery, that's when we're having those uncomfortable conversations, and we say, well, who installed it? Or I don't know, they were out of towners, they lived in Queensland, they just come down for the weekend, it was a red hot deal, you know, like these are all shitty excuses that we hear for people not doing their own homework and due diligence, right? a well-designed system is a system that can be expanded in the future very easily, right? Like the designer has really thought about the roof space they're using. They haven't placed it intentionally in the shade just for a shorter cable run, you know. There's a whole array in other videos that we've made around well-designed systems. These 6.6 kilowatt systems are not well-designed. In fact, installation subcontractors will actually arrive to site and probably not even have a roof plan to go off. It'll be up to them on the day to get up and measure up the roof and bang this thing in. So you can just imagine as well that the shortcuts that are taken whilst installing these systems, like are they grinding tiles to ensure the feet sit flush? No, they're not. Like, are they actually doing voltage rise calculations? No, they're not. Are they actually making sure this system's installed in the most compliant manner possible? No, they are not. You know, they're not leveling rail with string lines. I can tell you that for free. Like, they are banging this thing in and they are out of there before, you know, before smoko, quite literally. So that's unfortunately, and you speak to clients in the future, like if they've bought that garbage, right? And they go one of two ways in the future. They either come back to us and eventually have it ripped off because it doesn't work anymore, or they become that really stale, sour person who says solar doesn't work. It's not fair on a solar industry, on the solar industry. If you went out and bought that 6.6 for $3.5, $4,000, if you go tell all your mates solar doesn't work, that's bullshit. That's not fair. You went and bought cheap garbage. That's like going and buying a cheap secondhand car that only has 3 months worth of rego left on it, and it runs out of rego, you can't get it re-registered, and you say cars are crap. They don't work. That's the exact equivalent, you know. Or even worse, Dan, it's not just them breaking down. Like, fires are a really hot topic at the moment, you know. Like, I'm not here to preach about, you know, end phase versus string. This conversation's not about that. This conversation's about 6.6 kilowatts being the wrong fit for everyone, right? But the amount of solar fires and rooftop DC isolator fires that you see out there, it's actually really common that they do come with 6.6 kilowatt systems. They are installed by these people who get in and out so fast and just have very little attention to detail and pride in their workmanship. They don't have the money or the resources to actually spend the time to be proud of their workmanship, you know? And unfortunately, these style of installers and sales companies have gotten their hands on Tesla Powerwalls as well. So they do sell cheaper batteries, which are like an Alpha ESS, or, you know, there's a whole heap of garbage batteries out there, right? But we see some Tesla Powerwall 2s, and people have bought a good product, but they've bought it off a company that just, they're 6.6 kilowatt specialists, aka specializes in nothing. And now they've got their hands on this beautiful product, the Tesla Powerwall 2. They pay someone $650, $800, $900 to install it. Go and slap that in, you know, Johnny, and off you go. And they quite literally slap it in. I mean, we've seen a great example today, which we might get some photos in this video of. This is a client who bought a Powerwall off someone else for $500 less than what we were doing them for, right? And you're about to see the comparison. I'm going to talk you through it as the photos come up on the screen. The first photo you're going to see is a beautiful installed gateway, which is what we install, right? The Tesla gateway, everyone has a gateway. But this is how we do it. This is our workmanship. This is exactly how we leave it finished. Then the next photo, this photo you're about to see right now, this is a gateway installed by someone who's paid by the battery and paid by the panel. This is an absolute shambles. This is zero pride in this workmanship. This is not safe. This is not compliant. And I don't even know, like, if the homeowner opened this up, they'd probably have a heart attack. Then this next photo, Dan, is a photo of 2 Tesla Powerwalls installed side by side. We've gone and added the second one on, and you can see there's no conduit coming down the wall. There's a naked isolator. There's a lot of pride that's gone into that battery. The battery's level, it's installed, and most importantly, it's going to have after-sales service and care taken on it. The first battery that you see next to our great-looking battery has a bit of conduit slapped down the wall. Now, like, the effort that it actually takes, Dan, to get the cable down the wall isn't too much more. It's a little bit more of a skill, but it's not too much more than just slapping this conduit, pumping it through the eave, and just putting it into the side of the battery. Like, it's just so lazy, you know? And our guys rock up, and obviously the company who installed this first Powerwall is probably out of business, right? They're probably not there to give long-term support like what we are. And it is the installation quality and the workmanship, the pride that we take in our work is worlds apart from what most people in the solar industry actually do. And it's a shame that we're seeing this 6.6 kilowatt plague venture into things like the Tesla Powerwall, but we are seeing it, and consumers need to be aware of the differences and need to be aware that there are so many sharks out there now. Some of them are even naming their business after sharks. It's almost comical, right? So yeah, consumers need to be aware, Dan, but ultimately that is why if someone's throwing a 6.6 kilowatt system in your face, they're not having the conversation about future electric vehicle, battery storage, or any of that good stuff, and they're telling you it's going to wipe your bill to zero, man, run. Just run. They are not the company for you. They really are not the company for anyone.
Subcontractor who installed the first Powerwall at that site that we went to this week, that was a cavity brick construction. Was it quite a simple cavity to access to run that? But I look at that and I don't think this tradesperson even had a second thought to run that.
They're probably not even a tradesperson, Dan.
They're just running conduit. Like there's like
it's
muscle memory.
It's the NBN stuff all over again.
Yeah.
NBN wouldn't dare hit a cavity.
The muscle memory is just, it's safer. Like the standard operating procedure would be just external conduit, get there, like follow the process.
Absolutely.
Like there is not an opportunity for the tradesperson to, or whoever it is, to think on their, like, strive for a better quality install.
There's no incentive.
No.
They don't have Facebook pages showing quality work. They have Facebook pages showing shonky solar ads. That's the difference, right? These people don't have galleries and learning centers, and you know, they're not there for the people. They're there for themselves and for a quick buck, you know, and they'll get that quick buck. They're the sort of company that won't pay their ATO debt. They'll be out of business in 2 to 3 years, and you know, Australians still support them. And it's not good. You know, we've really got to smarten up and become more situationally aware to what these companies are doing and how they're manipulating people's brains and taking advantage of tough financial times at the moment. That's exactly what they're doing. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if I look at that battery and I see that conduit slapped up up there, I know they haven't clipped the cable in the roof. And that's the other thing. Just show this picture right now, Dan. They ran the cable on top of the sarking. That's a huge no-no. You can't do that. You know, and I knew that before we even looked at these photos, because, Dan, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if that's how you show up, the first thing that I see when I look at your Powerwall, I'm telling you now, the thing is a dog's breakfast the whole way through, inside and out. Why would they make it any better anywhere else? There's no reason to. So. Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, the client's lucky that we've come in and taken ownership of that site, and you know, we've made an effort to make it compliant, fireproofed it and things like that, which it wasn't to start with. We can't go and unwire it and start again. You know, that's not possible. But you know, we can do our best, and we can, you know, take over something like that. But yeah, the 6.6s, Dan, they're a little harder to take over. The risks that are associated with those kind of products in the manner that they're installed can cause someone some serious amount of harm. It's a really, really big problem. So we don't want to own those systems and those liabilities on people's roofs.
Yeah. And when it comes to our system removals, are a lot of them you're finding the 6.6s, or is it vary?
Yes, they are. Yeah. They're actually 6.6 or less.
Oh, right.
Rarely do we take off like 8s and 10s.
Yeah,
it's quite rare unless they've catastrophically failed.
Yeah.
It mostly, yes, is 6.6s. You know, the other day, Dan, out the back, there was a not brand new, obviously, because LG are no longer around, but there was an LG system out the back with 330 watt panels. It had been on someone's roof for 2 years, you know. And I just looked at that out the back and I went, oh, what happened? And it had a catastrophic failure, which had nothing to do with the quality LG panels, because they were good panels. It had everything to do with installation quality. And you know, those panels, they're never going to see a roof ever again. That's a real tragedy, you know. So install quality is so important. And these 6.6 kilowatt bandits, they just don't have it.
And the best way for the average mum and dad to ensure they're going to get a good experience with their installation company wherever they are in Australia or around the world.
Yeah. Look, in-house installers are always going to be better than subbies. I mean, I say always, and that's actually not true, Dan, because you got to remember I was once an install subby too. And when I was faced with difficult decisions like, am I going to get the second job done in a day or am I not? I hand on my heart, I always put the client's best interest first. So I would quite often disappoint the sales company that we were working for by not getting that next install done or not making it to that next site, which ultimately disappoints the client as well. But I didn't take shortcuts electrically, right? My electrical work was always very, very good. But I think that I was probably cut from a different cloth. Not everyone actually is putting the time and energy into the solar industry like what we are right now. I think if you're a mum and dad, if you're in Sydney, you're lucky. Come and talk to us. And, you don't even have to buy off us, to be honest. Just benchmark us, If you want to get quotes off other people, feel free to do so. We don't mind. We'd love to do your job. But if you've looked at us and the beauty of us being in Penrith, if we forced everyone around us to up their game, if people don't play to Penrith Solar standards, we just smoke them every day. And there are great local companies around us that do good work, right? That have almost followed in our footsteps, and they are all electricians. None of them are not electricians, right? They're electricians. They're pretty hungry, and they know if they're going to survive, they've got to play in Penrith Solar's league, right? And to their credit, they absolutely do. They do really well. If you're in other states, Queensland, you've got Springers, you've got MC Electrical. Adelaide, you've got NRG. Tasmania, you've got I Want Energy. Melbourne, you've got Lightning Energy, Total Solar Solutions. There are those great companies all around the country that you don't have to buy off them, but at least give them a shot at designing your system, because they are the best. They are the best. No one's better than those guys, right? So and they all have, well, most of them have in-house installers. I think all of those guys have in-house installers, right? They're the sort of companies that have training facilities like us. Like they don't all do end-phase only, unfortunately. Some of them still do string, but they'll do a really nice string install, as good as a string install can possibly get. So a lot of them, or some of them are Fronius fanboys, some of them do SunGrow. But as I always say, Dan, installation quality overrides your choice of inverter, and your choice of inverter overrides your choice of panel, right? So installation quality is number one, and it always will be. So yeah, that's my advice. If you're in any of those areas, Google those companies I said, and just benchmark them, get a quote off them, see what they're about. What you'll probably find is quite often they're actually not even the most expensive. Yes. Some of these solar sharks, they might have ads on Facebook saying they do 6.6 kilowatts for $4,500, but the exact same companies out there door knocking poor grandma and grandpa and trying to sell them a 6.6 for $10,500, right? And the reason for it is because those sales consultants, they get to keep half the profit or half the margin that they sell above the base price of that system. So if the company says, hey, consultant, I want, you got to sell this system for $4,000. That's our base cost. And the consultant goes out and sells it for $8,000, they split the profit, right? So you've sold it for $4,000 over. The consultant will take $2,000 and the company will take $2,000. Those companies I just mentioned, Dan, that do quality work, we sell for set prices, right? So our price list is almost publicly available, right? What we sell to you a 10 kilowatt for, we'll sell to the next person and the next person. Obviously, depending on the style of your home. Sometimes there will be additional labor for tricky things like 45-degree pitch roofs, but for most part, you'll always get a very, very consistent quote, and you will with all those companies too. So you don't have to settle for the door knocker. Actually, you should never settle for the door knocker. But you don't have to settle for people that are pressure selling you. You don't have to settle for people who don't have in-house installers. These companies are actually out there and they do the right thing. So, that's my pro tip for mums and dads. Don't settle. Get a couple of quotes. Feel comfortable with that company. Don't just buy off the slick salesperson who tells you a 6.6 is going to smoke your bills because it's really, really cheap. Yes. You'll pay twice, I guarantee 100%. You. Maybe 3 times.
And ask about their after-sales service. Like, what's the process? And in 3 months, like,
Yeah.
how are you going to take care of me after this?
Yeah.
Like, are you just out of here?
Yeah.
See,
Well, let
see
me
if
tell you,
there's
Dan, every
anyone-
salesperson can talk about an after-sales service,
Yeah.
right? Cool story. How about you ring the company, ring their 1-800 number or their 1-300 number, and tell them you're an existing client and ask to speak to their service department, right? And I mean, like, I hate saying it, but I don't hate saying it because people call our service department and actually do that to us. And you'll get Trevor or Jack or whoever's on the phones in service department, and we'll be fast, man. We got like less than 24-hour turnaround time on service calls right now. Like, we are ace at service calls. But that's where the proof in the pudding is. The consultant's always going to say, yeah, we've got a service department, whatever. How about you call them yourself, bluff them, tell them you're an existing client. I don't want to give you my name. I want to tell you what my problem is. How about you pass me to the service department? Oh, what service department? Well, that's exactly right. What are you going to do when I actually have a problem? You know, no service department is no future, and you don't want to be associated with those kind of companies for the sake of a couple $100.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%, man.
Awesome,
That's
man.
awesome.
Well, hey, it's been a great discussion. It's one of my more favourite topics to talk about, to be honest. I love debunking those myths, and I love, you know, proving to people that 6.6 kilowatts actually never, ever suited you. But I dislike pulling them off, Dan. You know, I hate that. I think if you're going to do it, spend the time, do the research. If you're watching this video now, you're obviously doing the research, and I take my hat off to you because a lot of people don't make it this far. And to be honest, they've probably already got that garbage installed on their roof and it's too late. Awesome, Dan. Well, hey, thanks so much for the discussion today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and we'll see you on the next one.